just want to say Kevin so generously offered to bring us down to the actual area where the boxes, acid-free boxes and things are stored and conserved.
Yeah.
So this is probably a place that many of you would never have an opportunity to visit, and I thought it might be fun for you guys to see what it's like. So take it away.
We are fortunate that we have 3 storage areas
Uh-huh.
for the museum's collection, and we're finishing up an inventory now to know how many pieces, but it's hovering between 16 to 18,000, and they
Wow.
stretch back more than 400 years. So it's really amazing. And we collect everything, you know, head to toe, and textiles and special collections, ephemera, fashion plates, magazines, and so forth that complement the actual fashion objects. And everything has to be stored very carefully because, of course, we want to preserve them. My whole responsibility is to get the pieces that I'm responsible for to the next curator, whom I will never know, safely. And then that curator and that curator. So literally 100 or 200 years from today, excited students can come and see these exact same pieces.
Would you also make reference, we talked about this before we started shooting, there is a mission statement. So it's not like you go completely ape crazy
You're
and buy
100%
whatever,
correct.
whatever, whatever.
No.
Right.
Right.
So you focus on specific things, and can
Yeah.
you explain what that is?
Sure. The mission statement is the most important thing for a museum because it is why you exist. What's the point? We collect objects because we're a design institution, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
So then the museum is the nonprofit foundation with the design institution, FIDM. And so it doesn't matter if the object is very, very plain or very, very fancy. Is it the most important example of design within its era for whatever it is, whether it's a coat or a pair of shoes or whatever? And then, of course, condition plays into that as well because storing something, taking care of it, conservation, it's all very expensive. And so you need to think about all those things as a curator before you accept something into your collection. We do not collect objects historically like the Smithsonian. So the blouse you're wearing, Doris Raymond wore that blouse today, would be very important for the Smithsonian. Whereas we would be looking at the cut, the shape, the design, the color, the texture, the embroideries, the designer, all of that according to the design era.
So that's really great that you're explaining that because I'm sure there are people who have attempted to donate things to museums, but they have not been accepted. And it's important to not take it personally, but to
Right.
realize that it's because of the mission statement.
It's a
If
very good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. We are offered a lot of beautiful objects, but we can't accept everything. And even if the object would fit within our mission statement, if we already have another example that
Right.
is as beautiful or in as great of condition, we can't accept that offered item because of storage.
Unless it's in better condition.
Better condition.
Right.
Or it's a more dynamic example of
Right.
whatever is being offered that would say, yes, we would want that new offered item for our permanent collection.
Right.
Maybe we take the object that is in the collection now and we put it into our hands-on study collection for the students.
Right.
Or the other one might have to leave the collection.
Be deaccessioned.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
that's a word that museums use a lot. If things are no longer relevant to the mission statement,
Right.
they deaccession it. And there are laws that really regulate how
Yes.
museums can let go of pieces because when you donate, there's an agreement. And so you have to abide by that agreement. It's complicated, but anyway, you
It
get the
is.
gist of it.
But it's also, it's smart and it's healthy for the collection and it benefits everybody.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah. And when you do deaccession, the monies that you get go into acquiring new pieces.
100%.
Yeah.
We can never use those funds for any other reasons or the object. If we know a collection that it's better suited for, it's offered to that collection.
Wonderful. So since we're down here and we're surrounded by all these conservation materials, can you give people an idea, basic, because a lot of people don't have a
Sure.
ton of money, but it's a question of how do you store, like let's say we have someone watching that has a fabulous beaded 1920s dress and they want to store it properly so that it doesn't disintegrate. What would you recommend?
You've got multiple options and it's according to your budget and how much space you have at your home and so forth. But the main thing is to think about the object and how best it would feel. If it's a heavy beaded gown, it is not going to want to hang because the gravity is just going to shred that garment. So it should lay out. That's how it's going to be most comfortable. If it's a heavy duty wool coat, great, it could hang up. But all of the materials that touch that object, you want them to be inert, pH neutral, acid free.
Got it.
So our tables are covered with ripstop nylon because this is inert material. So it's something we can wash all the time to have a nice surface for our objects to rest on. This is an archival box, a gray box, an acid-free box. This is standard in the community. You can buy these online. They can be very expensive down to relatively affordable. It just, you need to shop around.
Should we be putting gloves on are
Great.
you taking anything out?
I'm not going to touch any of the objects, but that's a really good point. Gloves are important, and we wear the latex gloves. We don't wear the cotton gloves anymore because they really snag. And you don't have as much textile feel.
And you also get little fiber droplets.
All over the place.
Yeah.
Right. So we wear gloves. But if we're dressing an object on a mannequin, we do not wear gloves because we need to be able to really feel what we're doing.
Right.
And you can damage an object wearing gloves.
Right.
You know, it can protect it or damage it. We always wear gloves. If you find a gorgeous 20s or 30s lame coat or evening gown, you need to wear gloves. Even if you wash your hands all the time, because it can leave basically thumbprints, you know, or fingerprints.
Oil?
The oils,
Body oils?
it will damage the material. Because it's not like the 1960s lames that are Lurex coated in plastics.
Right.
So the Lurex is actually protected. Those early lames, they're actual metal.
Right.
You know, and they can tarnish really easily. So we have an archival box here. You know, we take off the lid. Immediately what you see is tissue paper. So this is archival tissue paper.
Is
Again,
it buffered or unbuffered?
This is, it depends on what your object is. We always buy unbuffered. Buffered can be used, but not for every garment type. So like buffered is not good for certain fibers, and it's okay for other fibers. Whereas unbuffered across the board is fine.
Okay.
Yeah. So here we have tissue paper. You know, we always do a little cover, and then we have this really extraordinary 1820s feather cape.
It's a barnyard cape.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
British, and this is really delicate. We would not want to hang this up because, you know, you could, if you move it around a lot, the feathers could get damaged.
May I tilt this so that?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's resting in a little bed of tissue, which helps keep it in place. We have a little bag for any feathers that might come off. For our conservator later, if we are going to exhibit this, can maybe reattach them. Or these types of, even if we could never reattach it, this is the type of stuff that you use to look under the microscope to see what the objects are that create your garment, all the different materials.
That makes sense.
And so forth. Or we can test it.
I love the colors on this. It's incredible.
Isn't it incredible? Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, you know, these are rare and delicate, and so we want to protect it.
Tasha Tudor made reference to barnyard capes in one of her books.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And what seems to be the true possibility of the origins of these kinds of capes, which are British, is that it was the King Kamehameha and his wife traveling to Britain in the 1820s.
Totally makes sense.
And of course, the featherworks that come out of the Sandwich Islands, which are known as the Hawaiian Islands today, and you even see the patterns that were imitated.
Incredible.
The sad thing is, within 3 months of arriving in London, the king and queen died of smallpox because, of course, they were not immune. Their body was not used to those kinds of pathogens. And but they became a trend in London at the time.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So you said this is 1820s.
About 1826.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So acid-free tissue paper, unbuffered.
Yes.
acid-free boxes.
Yep.
And I should mention that I know for a fact that some of the stores, I don't think it's Bed Bath and Beyond, but one store like that, they actually sell kits that have the box with the tissue paper.
That's nice.
Yeah.
That's really great.
Yeah,
And
so if you have a few precious pieces, you know, this box has
Right.
room to put several things.
Exactly. We would do actually a tray. We would construct a tray that would go across, and we could then fit another flat item.
Right.
You know, and that's the thing is like we try to maximize the space of our of storing our objects, but without damaging them.
Right.
You know, so there's all sorts of little techniques that we invent. We literally what's needed for this scenario, and we invent it. You know.
So I know museums don't like to dry clean because that causes additional like chemical breakdown and distress to a garment. But for the ordinary people that are not museums, what would you recommend to us?
We do dry clean.
Oh, you do?
No kidding. If we have contemporary pieces that we feel are very sturdy
Uh-huh.
and they need to be cleaned, dry cleaning is often the best.
Great.
Because it's more keeping all those soils within the fibers long term is worse than the one dry cleaning path that it goes through, cycle that it goes through.
And when you dry clean, do you kill off any possible eggs like moth eggs
Yes,
and things
you
like
do.
that?
That is
Okay.
another really good reason. Also, one of the things that you can do that doesn't cost anything is wrap up your garment in, or your accessory, whatever, in a plastic bag, get out as much air as possible, seal it, and put it in your freezer.
Is that
Freeze
cold
it.
enough?
You might as well try. We have industrial freezers that get to negative 2 million, whatever
Oh.
it is, you know. But you can still do it at home, and it's better than letting little moths fly all over.
Right.
And we leave our objects in the freezer for 2 weeks. We take them out for a week to thaw to create a false spring, because if there are any eggs, they'll hatch.
Oh.
We then put it back into the freezer for a week, take it out, and then the objects are vacuumed. And I don't mean with a Hoover. You know?
No.
No, I mean we have little handheld vacuums,
Right.
and then everything is vacuumed. It's very labor intensive, but people can
Yeah.
do these simple techniques to help mitigate any infestations in their own collections at home.
And then I know, as far as the nemesis of textiles and clothing, there's dust,
Mhm.
which is why you would vacuum, right?
Yes. Yeah.
There's obviously moths.
Yeah.
There's light. It doesn't have to be sunlight. It could also be.
Any light, even if it is a single candle in a room. And light damage is cumulative. It's not, you can never reverse it.
Right.
So a single candle in a room with an object sitting next to it for 1 solid year, having it outdoors in the daylight for 1 day does the same damage.
Oh, interesting.
Now I may have my times off.
Interesting.
But light damage is light damage, and it will happen even with a very low lighting. So when we're not in storage, we always have the lights off. If we're working in this front part of storage, we have the back lights off. Also, we're lucky that we have our cabinets and boxes that keep light and dust off of everything.
So for someone that has, let's say, a hardy garments that are collectible or part of a collection, and they're in a closet, would you recommend draping a sheet or something over
Sure,
it
absolutely.
to protect it? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I can show you some examples if you'd like to see.
Sure, sure. I think it would be fun to just see how things are stored in a museum.
Yeah, absolutely.
So okay,
Okay.
cool. Let's do it.
Okay. So we basically have one hallway, one aisle, and we move the aisle around.
Got it.
Because then you don't have all these aisles that take up room. Okay. Again, the ripstop nylon, right?
Right.
I kind of invented this system which works great. So it's three areas
With a magnet?
with magnets, and it's open at the bottom. That
Right.
means that it's not binding the objects that are hanging, and it gives airflow.
Aerates, yeah.
Because you do want airflow. And magnets should be anybody's best friend.
Interesting. And the other thing too to mention is do not store your garments in your dry cleaning plastic bags.
No, that's not good. No, you don't want to store anything in a plastic bag. Muslin sheets, cotton sheets, anything that's just a natural fiber that will help it to breathe.
That hasn't been bleached.
Exactly, and also you don't want ever there to be kind of a buildup of moisture within those bags, because that will cause mold, which will stain your garments so badly. So you can see here that we hang up a lot of our garments because
They're hardy.
they're hardy. I mean, this is a really heavy duty wool coat. It's fine. We have everything tagged so we know what it is and we can see that information very quickly. So we don't have to dig in.
Right.
You know, we've got the labels like, you know, this is all Jacques Fat. You know, and so it's just organized. You also need to come up with an organizational system for yourself at your home. Where are your pieces?
Mm-hmm. Depending
know,
on how much stuff you have.
How much you have. If you collect shoes, you know, the shoes, are they lined up in a way that you know what they are to get into them easily, instead of like, oh, is this it? No. Oh, is this it? Oh, no. Oh, is it? You know, put little labels on the outside. You know, it's easy.
Mike started doing acid-free boxes in the office, and on the outside he has a photograph of the garment.
Yes.
So that really helps.
Right. Here is an example of, this is a Bonnie Cashin, and we have
Suede.
created a little Tyvek coat for it, and Tyvek can be washed over and over, you know, and
Tyvek.
like, you know, when you're driving along and somebody's building a building and you see Tyvek on the outside of the building because they're working on it.
No, I've never seen it.
It's the same material. It's
Can I
used
touch it?
in the building. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It's very cheap, and it comes on a roll, and you can, you know, order hundreds and hundreds of yards for very little money.
Oh, cool.
And so this is a suede garment, so we did not want it to touch anything else. I'm not going to handle it too much because I don't have gloves on, and suede does absorb, as you know, a lot sweats and oils and so forth. So we've created.
So Tyvek is acid-free.
It is.
Uh-huh.
It is. And the thing is, look on the inside of the Tyvek.
Yeah. It's releasing.
We do not want that to touch an
Other
object
items.
that it's hanging next to.
Right.
So not only are you protecting your garment, but you're protecting yourself.
Right.
Often. That's why gloves are important, but also these kinds of barriers to create.
That's very cool.
Yeah. And you know, we have everything on padded hangers.
That you make.
That we make. These are just wood hangers. We have sawn them off to make them a little shorter because you don't want the hanger to poke through your garment. It's just cotton muslin with some batting
Quilted,
underneath.
yeah.
And this helps to give you a wider shoulder instead of that super narrow shoulder of a wire hanger.
Which deforms.
It does.
Yeah.
And also can sag down because, you know, like, this is a weighty coat.
I want this coat.
Isn't that great?
It's beautiful.
Isn't that fabulous?
The colors are great.
But yeah, so, you know, these are just really easy techniques. Wood hangers, you can buy them by the dozen. They're not expensive. And honest to God, you can even go to the thrift stores. You're going to see bins of hangers and things, you know.
But as long as you cover the wood, because the
You
wood
gotta cover
releases.
the wood.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And pad it out. Just get needle punch batting. Needle punch batting is 100% polyester. It's very cheap.
You get
can
it,
buy
what,
it by
like
the roll.
Joann's or someplace?
Anywhere
Okay.
that sells fabrics, or you can buy it online too. Just needle punch batting. You can buy it, you know, and you just cut it in strips, wrap it around, put your little
That's great.
cotton cover, and you're totally good. And it's cheap. It's more labor intensive than expensive. Put it that way.
That's
But
really
if
great.
you're going to invest in a collection personally, or you have family heirlooms that mean a lot to you and your family, you need to invest in making sure you take care of them okay.
Absolutely, which is one of the reasons why we wanted to talk about it.
Yeah.
Let me ask you also, so the same thing would apply to shoes as well as hats.
Yeah.
What about jewelry?
Do
you do jewelry here?
We do. We collect jewelry, and we have bought the archival boxes that have just little trays that are you know, segmented, and we just do a little bed of tissue and we place the object in that bed of tissue, because we used to wrap them to protect them, but then we'd have to handle them nonstop and it was difficult to find them.
Right.
So by creating these little nests and these little, you know, segmented boxes, it made it real easy. We pull the lid off, there's the brooch that I need, there's the whatever.
And
Yeah.
I asked that specific question because with collections, let's say like Miriam Haskell, oxidation is very common on her metal. And if the
Right.
wire that holds the little pearls oxidizes, then it snaps and breaks.
Right.
So the other thing, you know, a true collector, I mean like mega collector, would have storage that is temperature controlled, which is what this is.
Yes, and humidity control.
And humidity, exactly.
Because it's the humidity that is helping that metal to react.
Mm-hmm.
And then once it starts, temperature fluctuations, humidity fluctuations cause it to just really take off. Whereas if that metal is in a stable environment, it will not react as quickly.
Right.
We can never.
It's like resting.
Yes, we can
Yeah.
never stop things falling apart. Your clothes are falling off you right now, Doris, you know? But we can slow it down.
Right.
And that's the point of slowing it down so that we can extend the life of these objects for as long as possible so future generations, as far into the future as we can take these things, can enjoy them, be inspired, be in awe of, wish they had, wish they could wear.
Right.
You know?
That's
so,
great.
Yeah.
I can't really think of any other area that we haven't covered. So I really hope you guys appreciate this information from a curator who works with materials to make sure that they are alive for a long period of time. But in the meantime, definitely check out the book that we discussed earlier. And if you're in Los Angeles, come down to the museum.
Yeah.
And
We're open free to the public.
And it's, what are the hours?
We are open Tuesday through Saturday, 10 to 5.
Perfect. Great. And there is parking in the area, and there is charge parking downstairs as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So it's worth the trip coming downtown Los Angeles to check this out. But thank you so much for watching. We look forward to seeing you next time, and I'll be looking at your comments. So if you like this episode, give us a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do so. And please take care of yourselves, be safe and be well, and we'll see you next time. Okay? Bye.
Bye.